So when we talk about reproduction, reproduction is different from production. Reproduction means repetition of production. In production, we put in some different raw materials and the product is completely different. But when we talk about reproduction, it means what goes in comes out. So we can see that the progenies of dogs are dogs only, the progenies of cats are cats only, the progenies of human beings are human beings only. It's not like that the dog produce kittens or the cats produce dogs. So that's why reproduction means repetition of the production. The same kind of products are produced every time an organism reproduces. So when I said dogs produce dogs, that means there is the maintenance of the body design, because a dog is a dog and what is being produced? A puppy. So the progeny of a dog, so the body design is maintained. You don't have the body design of a cat from a dog. So how it is done? The next question arises, do organisms create exact copies of themselves? Is it possible that exact copies are produced? Just now I have told that during reproduction there is the maintenance of the body design. Let's go back to class 9th and see what actually happens when an organism reproduces. So the basic process which is involved in the reproduction is the creation of DNA copy. We know every organism has its own DNA which is responsible for producing a particular characteristic. For example, if my hairs are black, my eyes are black, I have particular hair texture, it is because of the DNA I am carrying. So DNA is responsible for providing particular characteristics to an individual. So when that individual organism reproduces, first of all it needs to create a copy of this DNA so that whenever the cell division occurs, each copy can go into a part of that newly produced cell. So when I talk about creation of DNA copy, it happens during the division of the cell. So DNA copying, a copy is produced and each of the copy is given to the newly produced daughter cells. But what is important is this DNA copying is not exact. It is not exact. That means there are errors in DNA copying which will lead to the variation. For example, if the copying is exactly the same, we will get the exact clone of an individual. So Aishwarya Rai will be producing Aishwarya Rai, Amitabh Bachchan will be producing another Amitabh Bachchan. It doesn't happen. Why? Because the copying is not exact. Though the body design is maintained, a human being is producing a human being, but the exact characteristics of organisms are not produced. That was the basic question. Do organisms create the exact copies of themselves? No. Body designs are maintained because the DNA is copied, but then this DNA copying is not exact, because of which the variations arise. And when we see the variations arise, these variations are responsible for producing the different characteristic features of siblings. So if a couple produces a boy and a girl, so the boy and the girl, that means the siblings, the brother and sisters, they are different. They are different. Why? Because though they have got their DNA from the same set of parents, but the DNA copying in both the cases was not accurate. That's why they have variations among themselves. So what we can say, that the DNA copies which were generated are similar but not identical. We usually say that beti maa pe gayi hai, the daughter has gone on her mother, or the son has gone on his father. That means there is a similarity. The nose can be similar, the eyes can be similar, the hairs can be similar, but they are not identical, mind you. Okay? It never happens, as I said, that Aishwarya Rai produces another Aishwarya Rai or Amitabh Bachchan produces another Amitabh Bachchan. The progenies may look like their parents, but they can never be identical. And whenever we have some, because now in your mind the question would have arise as to how twins are produced. We'll talk about them at the end of the chapter once you understand how actually the progenies are being produced in case of human beings. So now you need to understand the DNA copies generated are similar, but these are not identical. One thing which I told to you is during the DNA copying, variations arise. These are very important, my dear students. When we talk about the variations, variations are important because these are the basis of evolution. What is evolution? Evolution is the long time changes which has accumulated over a period of years that enable an organism to live in a particular habitat or niche. What we talk about is niche. Niche is actually the functional habitat of an organism. So many times you would think about what is niche. Niche is the functional habitat of an organism. So now understand what is the importance of variation. We know that DNA is responsible for the characteristic features that help an organism to use or survive in a niche. I will just explain it with an example. For example, in a class of 40 students, whenever there is a season change, there are 4 to 5 students who always fall sick. They have complaints of running nose, flu, and every time there is a season change. Why it happens? The season change is same for all 40 students, but why only 4 suffer? Because they have the weak immune system. Why they have a weak immune system? Because their inner DNA structure is like that. So that means DNA gives certain characteristics to an organism which helps it to survive and utilize a particular niche or environmental conditions. Another example I will give. Every reproductive season of dogs, you see the dog give birth to 8 or 10 puppies at the same time. After a month or 2, you will find 2 or 3 puppies left. Why? Where are the other 7 gone? Where are the other 6 gone? They compete among themselves for food. Many a times you will see them running across the road. They are hit by the car, some die, some survive. Why? So all those 10 puppies were the progenies of the same dog, but because of the variations, some have the ability to run fast and some they can't run fast. So those who were able to run fast and cross the road, they were able to not being hit by that particular car and they survived. But those who were running slow got hit by the car. That means the DNA gave them that particular ability which is an advantage over the others. The same way, when there is a food at one place and 8 to 10 puppies fight for that particular food, so 2 or 4 will be able to grab that food and the rest who are not competent enough would not be having that food. So those who got the food, they would have the energy, they would survive and the rest will perish. So do understand that DNA gives the characteristic features that help organisms to use or survive in a niche. So whenever the DNA copying occurs, it's not accurate, because of which variations arise among the progenies and it gives the different abilities to survive. It also provides the advantage of one above the another, like we just discussed in case of dogs. We discussed. So the importance of variation is, it is important for the evolution. It is important to provide different abilities to survive and confer some advantage to the organism over another organism. So if the question comes in the exams, that citing an example, explain why and how variations are important. So you can cite an example. In temperate waters, there are different species of bacteria living. So during global warming, we know that the temperature is increasing. So the temperature of the water bodies have also increased. Now what happens? When the temperature of the water bodies have increased, there is a population of the bacteria. So out of 100 bacteria, maybe 60 bacteria are resistant to that temperature change. So they will survive, they will live. And the rest of the 40 bacteria which cannot survive that hot conditions, they will perish. So just think why variations are so important. If the variations won't be there, then my dear students, at the same time the whole species will go extinct, like it happened millions of years ago during the dinosaur extinction. Because then there was a dominance of the dinosaurs, so suddenly when there was an environment change because of the meteorites, what happened? The whole of the species got wiped away from the surface of the earth. So variations are very important. It's not that if you are relishing mango and there are 100 varieties, you know that, of mangoes, you say, okay, let 50 of them vanish. No, because every single organism, every single living being has an important role to play in the food chain and is important for the complete balance of the ecosystem. So this is the basis of reproduction. Now we will be moving towards the specific kind of reproduction, that's the asexual and the sexual reproduction, in our next video.